Long before the Shih Tzu became a companion of millions, it was a treasure of kings, a living symbol of warmth, grace, and serenity. Its story begins in the ancient courts of China and Tibet, in an age when emperors ruled as if by divine right, and palaces were filled with the whispers of silk and incense. There, hidden behind carved jade gates and golden screens, a small creature walked beside empresses and monks alike, the Shih Tzu, the lion dog of heaven. Its name meant lion, not because it hunted or roared, but because it embodied the spirit of the mythical guardian lion, a creature of courage, purity, and joy. To look at a Shih Tzu was to see a lion's pride in miniature, softened by love. These dogs were not bred for war, nor for labor, nor even for sport. They were bred for companionship. Their purpose was simple yet profound, to bring peace to the hearts of those burdened with power. In the monasteries of Tibet, monks believed the little lion dogs carried the souls of holy men. Their calm gaze, they said, could quiet the storms of the spirit. And when they were gifted to the Chinese emperors, they became not just royal pets, but living blessings, creatures believed to bring fortune, harmony, and joy to the imperial court. They roamed the marble halls of the Forbidden City, their paws silent upon the floors that echoed with history. Empresses cradled them like jewels. Servants brushed their flowing coats for hours each day. They were adorned with ribbons and gold bells, their fur perfumed with rare oils. Every Shih Tzu was a small piece of heaven, breathing life into the cold splendor of imperial power. But beneath their beauty was a spirit that could not be tamed, confident, independent, and deeply aware. Even in those palaces surrounded by grandeur, the Shih Tzu did not bow. It charmed. It commanded affection, not through obedience, but through presence. To gaze into its eyes was to feel something both regal and childlike, the same warmth that had once melted the hearts of emperors. Centuries passed, dynasties rose and fell, and through it all the Shih Tzu endured. Because beauty fades, power changes, but joy, true joy, always finds a way to survive. Every royal litter was guarded as carefully as any crown jewel. These dogs were so precious that, for hundreds of years, they were forbidden to leave the imperial palace. The punishment for stealing one was death, and yet their legend grew. Foreign travelers spoke in awe of the little dogs of the East, creatures of such grace and charm that even emperors adored them more than gold. They were small, yes, but they carried something vast, a peace that filled the room, a love that asked for nothing but time. When you held one, you didn't feel its size, you felt its presence. The Shih Tzu was born not for power, but to balance it, to remind the mighty that gentleness is also strength. It was the quiet in the chaos, the smile in the storm, the heartbeat that warmed the coldest throne. Even today, that legacy remains. Every time a Shih Tzu curls into your lap, it echoes those centuries-old moments where emperors found solace and where love, not command, ruled supreme. Because the Shih Tzu was never meant to conquer kingdoms, it was meant to comfort hearts, and in doing so, it conquered something far greater, the loneliness of power itself. From the temples of Tibet to the golden halls of China, the Shih Tzu's journey had begun. A journey not of conquest, but of connection. Not of might, but of meaning. The little lion of heaven had been born, and its reign, unlike any empire before it, would never end. Inside the Forbidden City, life moved like a dream, measured by the rhythm of silk slippers on marble floors, the whisper of fans, and the soft rustle of robes trimmed in gold. And among that perfection of silence, there was life, small, bright, and impossibly warm. The Shih Tzu. They were not simply pets, they were companions of spirit. In the eyes of the imperial family, they were pieces of heaven made flesh, creatures whose mere presence brought comfort to a heart heavy with duty. Each morning, attendants would brush their flowing coats until they shimmered like water under sunlight. The palace air was filled with the faint fragrance of jasmine and sandalwood, scents chosen to match the dog's royal serenity. Silken ribbons tied their hair, tiny bells chimed softly as they moved. When the empress sat to read poetry or sip tea beneath the cherry blossoms, a Shih Tzu would rest quietly at her feet, never begging, never intruding, just being. Because that was the Shih Tzu's gift, the power of peaceful presence. They did not need to entertain to be adored. They simply existed with such grace that their stillness became a kind of art. The Empress Dowager Cixi, one of the most powerful women in China's history, was said to have kept dozens of them, each treated as sacred beings. They dined from porcelain bowls, slept on silk cushions, and even had eunuchs assigned solely to their care. But for all the attention and ceremony, the relationship between empress and dog was not one of ownership. It was one of companionship. Because in a world built on obedience and hierarchy, the Shih Tzu was the only creature allowed to love the empress as an equal. It did not fear her title, it loved her heart. And she, in return, found in their eyes the one thing that palace walls could not give: sincerity. For all their beauty, these dogs were never vain. For all their pampering, they never became fragile. They were born to comfort, not to rule. And yet, in their own way, they ruled every heart they touched. The court poets wrote of them as tiny lions that guard the soul. Painters captured them curled upon silk pillows beside golden screens. Even foreign envoys, hardened by politics and travel, spoke in wonder of their calm dignity. A Shih Tzu could look into your eyes and make you forget where you were. It didn't demand affection. It gave it endlessly, softly, like sunlight seeping into stone. The palace women believed that heaven had hidden a lesson inside the Shih Tzu, that even in power, gentleness was the truest strength. And so, generation after generation, these dogs became part of imperial life, living symbols of serenity amid the chaos of dynastic change. They heard whispers of treaties, saw tears of farewell, watched the rise and fall of rulers. Through it all, they remained the same, loyal, calm, radiant with love. When times grew dark, when empires trembled, they offered what no general or advisor could: a moment of stillness, a quiet heartbeat against trembling hands. That was the Shih Tzu's gift, to remind the mighty that they were still human, still capable of tenderness, still in need of love. Because to hold a Shih Tzu was to hold balance itself, the meeting of strength and softness, of power and peace. And perhaps that is why, when the imperial palaces finally opened to the world, it was the Shih Tzu that the West noticed first. Not because it was exotic, but because it was universal. No matter where it went, one truth followed it. A Shih Tzu doesn't love you for who you are in the world. It loves you for who you are when the world disappears. Every dynasty ends, even those that believe they will last forever. When the Qing Empire fell in the early 20th century, the silence that followed was unlike any before it. The great palaces stood empty, their gardens overgrown, their halls echoing with memories of laughter, whispers, and tiny paws that once danced across their marble floors. The Shih Tzu, the cherished jewel of the Forbidden City, was suddenly without its empire. Without the protection of the court, the breed nearly vanished. Some were lost to chaos, others to hunger. The world outside the palace had no use for a royal companion, not when survival demanded strength of another kind. But what history tried to erase, love found a way to protect. Because among the fallen walls of the empire, a few hearts still remembered what these little lions meant. A handful of Shih Tzus were smuggled out by palace attendants and loyal families, hidden beneath robes, carried across mountains, and given as gifts to diplomats. They were no longer treasures of the throne. They were treasures of memory. One such dog found its way into the arms of Lady Brownrigg, a British officer's wife stationed in China. Another went to Madame de Bred, a Frenchwoman who adored the breed's quiet nobility. And from these few survivors, the bloodline of the Shih Tzu lived on, fragile but unbroken. It's said that only 7 females and 7 males formed the foundation of all modern Shih Tzus. 14 lives against oblivion. 14 sparks that carried an empire's spirit into a new world. In Europe, they caused instant fascination. People had never seen dogs so small, yet so full of pride, creatures that could stare at you as if they knew secrets older than your family name. They weren't just adorable, they were ancient. While other toy breeds played and barked for attention, the Shih Tzu simply observed, patient, poised, and confident in its charm. It was not born to please, it was born to be loved. Breeders in England and Scandinavia took great care to preserve that unique combination of elegance and warmth. They refined the coat, perfected the proportions, but never touched the soul, that calm, knowing spirit that had once soothed emperors. By the mid-20th century, the Shih Tzu had crossed oceans again, this time to America, the land of reinvention. And once more it adapted without losing itself. In the West, it became a symbol not of luxury but of affection. It no longer lived behind palace walls. It lived in homes, on laps, in hearts. But something remarkable happened. Even stripped of silk and ceremony, the Shih Tzu never lost its royalty. You could see it in the way it walked, tail curled proudly like a banner, eyes warm but wise. It carried itself as though it remembered where it came from. A creature that had once graced the courts of the Son of Heaven, now padding across suburban floors with the same quiet dignity. The world had changed, but the Shih Tzu had not, and perhaps that was its magic. It could move from dynasty to democracy, from empress to everyday family, and never lose its essence. Because its throne was never made of gold, it was made of love. Every person who welcomed a Shih Tzu into their home unknowingly adopted a piece of that lost empire, a legacy of compassion disguised as fur and joy. Through the darkest century, through war and change, the Shih Tzu survived not by fighting, but by feeling. It endured not because of strength, but because of love so sincere it could cross borders and generations. When it finally entered the show rings of the 1950s and 60s, it dazzled judges, not just for its beauty, but for its presence. Every tilt of the head, every gentle blink, carried centuries of grace. It was not performing, it was remembering. And as its popularity grew, it began to heal hearts in a new way, not as a royal relic, but as a faithful friend. Because whether in a palace or a small apartment, the Shih Tzu's gift remained the same: to bring warmth where there is cold, calm where there is noise, and love where there is loneliness. From hidden kingdoms to modern cities, from the silence of emperors to the laughter of families, it had done what no conqueror ever could. It had made the entire world its home. The world changed. Steel towers replaced palaces. The sound of car horns drowned the songs of temples. But the Shih Tzu, small and steady, walked beside humanity into its new age, carrying the same peace it once brought to emperors. No longer dressed in silk or perfumed with incense, it now wore something far more precious: simplicity. It became the friend of everyone, from the lonely elder by the window to the bustling family with children and laughter. And yet, for all its new surroundings, one thing never changed: its sense of purpose. Because the Shih Tzu has never been a decoration. It is a presence. It has a gift that few creatures possess: the ability to see people. When you are sad, it does not bark. It simply moves closer, curling into your side, reminding you, without words, that you are not alone. When you laugh, it tilts its head, as if smiling back. When you speak, it listens. In a world that moves too fast, the Shih Tzu remains a quiet reminder to slow down, breathe, and love. Modern science might call it a companion breed, but the truth is deeper. The Shih Tzu is an emotional mirror. It reflects warmth, and in doing so, it heals. That's why hospitals, therapy centers, and nursing homes often open their doors to these little lions. Their calm nature, gentle confidence, and intuitive empathy make them perfect comforters. They don't just visit, they connect. An elder's trembling hands grow still as the Shih Tzu rests upon their lap. A child with anxiety learns to smile again under its gaze. A veteran haunted by silence finds peace in its steady heartbeat. No speeches, no lessons, only presence. Because love doesn't always need sound to be heard. And let's not forget, for all its wisdom and serenity, the Shih Tzu is also a creature of joy. It plays with a sense of theater, a dramatic twirl here, a sudden sprint there, as if performing for an audience that only it can see. It's the comedian of the canine world, making you laugh with a tilt of the head or the stubborn refusal to move when it decides it's had enough. It carries a sense of self-awareness that feels almost human. You can see it in the sparkle of its eyes, mischievous, clever, utterly confident. It knows it's loved, and it knows it deserves to be. And in that way, it teaches us something profound, that to love oneself is not arrogance, it's peace. The Shih Tzu doesn't seek validation. It is validation, a walking, wagging symbol that happiness doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. Even its appearance speaks of balance: the luxurious coat, the gentle face, the proud tail curling like a crown. It's beauty without ego, grace without effort. You can find Shih Tzus now everywhere, in small apartments, country homes, city streets, and even social media screens, their little faces spreading laughter across the world. But whether it's in the arms of an empress or a child, the truth remains the same. The Shih Tzu exists to make life softer. It does not protect your home like a guard dog. It protects your heart. It does not chase away danger. It chases away loneliness. And that makes it one of the most extraordinary creatures ever to walk beside us. Not because it's powerful, but because it doesn't need to be. In a time when humans are surrounded by noise, the Shih Tzu is the gentle pause that brings us back to what matters most: love, connection, presence. The world may no longer have emperors, but it still has hearts that ache for comfort. And that is where the little lion still reigns. The Shih Tzu has walked through centuries, from golden thrones to modern sofas, from marble palaces to humble homes. Empires have fallen, languages have changed, and time has carried everything forward. But not this, not them, because love, when pure, does not age. It simply finds new forms, and that's what the Shih Tzu is, love made visible. It doesn't know status or wealth. It doesn't care for appearance or power. To the Shih Tzu, every heart it meets is an emperor, every moment together a kingdom. That's why even as the world grows louder, the Shih Tzu remains timeless. When it curls beside you, the centuries disappear. It could be a palace, or it could be your living room. It doesn't matter, because for this little lion, love is the only empire that never ends. Its heart beats with the same rhythm it always has, steady, trusting, eternal. And when it gazes at you with those dark, shimmering eyes, there's something almost sacred in that look. It doesn't ask, it simply believes. It believes that you are worthy of its love, that you are safe beside it, that no matter what happens, it will stay, always. You can feel that promise in every quiet sigh, every gentle paw that rests upon your knee. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's absolute. That's what makes the Shih Tzu's love so powerful. It's small enough to fit in your arms, but vast enough to fill a lifetime. Even as it grows old with slower steps and clouded eyes, it never loses that light. Its joy doesn't fade, it deepens. Because for the Shih Tzu, growing old with you isn't loss, it's completion. It was never meant to live a grand story, it was meant to live yours. And when the day comes when silence fills the home and that tiny presence is gone, you'll understand something profound, that you were loved completely and without condition. Every wag, every glance, every nap shared under the same sunlight was a piece of eternity, quietly given and gratefully received. That is the secret the Shih Tzu carries. Love does not vanish. It transforms. It lives in memory, in laughter, in the echo of tiny paws on wooden floors. And somewhere, in another time, another place, another Shih Tzu waits, ready to love again, as if it had never left. Because the Shih Tzu is more than a breed. It's a continuation. A thread woven through human history, soft, golden, unbroken. It has no ambition but joy, no mission but comfort, no legacy but love. From the temples of Tibet to the hearts of families across the earth, the Shih Tzu remains what it has always been, a reminder that gentleness can outlast empires and that the smallest heart can hold the greatest soul. The little lion of love has never needed to roar. Its silence speaks louder than any crown or army. And in that silence, it teaches us everything we need to remember. To be kind, to be patient, to stay. Because in the end, loyalty, warmth, and love, those are the true empires. And somewhere, curled beside someone right now, a Shih Tzu is keeping that empire alive.